Hello, class. This is Social Service 215, Social Problems and Social Actions, Chapter 2, Poverty and Class Inequality. So patterns and trends. We're defining poverty. So federal government's poverty threshold, criticism of the poverty line, use of median household income are things that you need to be aware of when defining poverty. So please refer to your book. Poverty rates over time and among different social groups. The U.S. Census Bureau report they also historical changes in poverty rate and varying likelihood of poverty by categories. Extreme poverty and low income. Extreme poverty neighborhoods are areas with poverty rates of 40% or more. So more poverty and higher severity of illnesses, psychosocial issues, and biological issues like disease processes, diabetes, hypertension. Psychological issues might be more stress factors that the recipients or residents are feeling, and then social issues might be a higher rates or um, issues of violence. So the social safety net. So social safety net is public programs to help those most vulnerable in society. We're talking about here like CHA, HUD, LINK, those type of things. Social insurance versus means tested programs, please be aware of those. Refer to your book. And reduction in benefits over time is a trend that we're seeing with our social safety net policies. Other dimensions of poverty include perception as a legitimate member of society and inequalities in social and political qualities. So the roots of the classless society are social structure in the colonial era, developing narrative of success, and influential advocates of the self-made myth. Class as a social science concept, so you talk about Karl Marx and Max Weber. Weber aspects of social structure, class, status, power, socioeconomic status, or SES, is the index of class based on social and economic factors. Social mobility, influence of the self-made myth, so please read that. There's a big gap between belief and reality, and increasing limited social mobility from lower classes to middle class to upper class is what we see here in the United States. An alternative way of understanding the United or U.S. class structure is dividing household incomes into quantiles, gap between mean and median incomes, and upper limits as indicators for inequality. Income and wealth, income earning or compensation versus wealth, which is the assets or net worth of a person or group. Differing impact of the Great Recession, and then widening gap we see between the rich and the poor, and the benefits to having wealth. So please read these concepts in great detail when we talk about inequality. Again, inequality, other dimensions of inequality include gender and race/ethnicity. We understand that persons of color typically have higher rates or experience inequality at higher rates. There's a widening racial wealth gap between people of color and our Caucasian counterparts. And access to healthcare, we see, is a big inequality. And likelihood of imprisonment is also a huge inequality. So the wealth of the top 20% of U.S. residents, popular views versus reality. So this is this chart here, figure 2.5. So please refer to your book. U.S. theory to explain poverty, class, and equality. So you have the functionalism. We talked about this in the previous chapter 1. So functionalist theories hypothesis that societies are complex systems whose parts work together to maintain cohesion and stability. So it's almost like a systematic approach. So differing validation for types of work, acceptance of social positions, and inevitable and necessarily social inequality. We talk about functionalism, policy, implications of functionalism, so criticism and reduction for welfare, federal level policies, implementation of austerity programs. Symbolic interaction, meaning from interactions between individuals, similar to labeling theory. So please continue to read on this. This is very important to know. Focus on presumed failings of individuals or failings of individuals. And we talk about the policy implications of symbolic interaction. You have continuing assault on public assistance, themes among legislative comments, and cycle of dependency. Conflict theory is the division of class into capitalist and proliferate, commodification, commodity fetish, and alienation, connection between the elite and the government, functions of poverty in society. This is also a very important theory to note, so please review. And we see this in policy implications. The critical element is who has the power, the influence and the power from the wealth and social movements and change. Social empathy. So we talk about specialized theories applied to poverty and inequality. So this talks about social empathy. So crucial trait for policymakers, differences between Congress and those in poverty, influence from participation in a poverty simulation. Social inclusion is the sense of belonging to or memberships in a group or society. Social policies often exclude the poor, requirement of public programs, impacts of IDAs. Please read this as well. Distributive justice is relative equality and how social and economic resources are distributed in a society. Regressive taxes for the wealthy, tax policies, potential for disruptive purposes. So social change, what can we do? Community-based partnership research, we can volunteer, raise awareness, and agenda for social justice.